Hi everyone, and thank you for watching our presentation. My name is Angela Zavaleta, and I'm a computer science student at the University of Turner Scott. This project was done in collaboration with Dr. Brian Harrington from the same university. Many research papers use data from student surveys, but are those surveys well designed? Are the questions used validated? Are the results comparable across studies? What exactly are we asking our students? In this work, we performed a systematic literature search from all papers published in the three most prominent CS education conferences in the past 15 years. Our main goal was to identify common patterns and modalities of questions in student surveys that were related to demographics and attitudes. Moreover, we analyzed which papers discussed validation or used validated surveys, as well as the papers that made their surveys available. To our knowledge, this is the first study that systematically reviews CS education literature to summarize the type of surveys that are being used, and to analyze research methodologies with respect to the design, implementation, and reporting of the survey data. Some researchers use existing surveys, either fully or partially, and some others develop their own questions. The way questions are asked and phrased are crucial factors in any study. There's a great deal of literature in sociology and psychology about surveys bias and how questions can influence a certain answer, which can cause skewed results or contradictory answers. Hence, the importance in validating surveys and sharing them with the research community. As we all know, validation is important in the development of any research tool. However, CS education has struggled with providing validated tools for the research community. It is essential to have standardized and replicable survey questions so that results could be compared if the attempt is to measure similar factors. There has been some attempts to help standardize CS attitude surveys. For example, these four surveys that are here on the slides. All of these surveys are validated and they were created based on theories or practices with the purpose of collecting general data from students as well as their programming attitudes. However, despite being validated, they are far from a standard in the CS research community because they're not commonly used. In the case of DataBuddies, which is a national survey, the data is not publicly available. We chose as the basis of our literature map all papers from the ACM Special Interest Group on Computer Science Education events from the past 15 years. So that will include EDC, 6C, and ICER. We used a query-based approach to attempt to extract only relevant publications. Applying the query to the publication abstracts, we found 1,313 papers that mentioned words surveys, questionnaires, questions, or assessments. All the papers found were manually coded for relevance to the study. We consider a paper relevant if it describes or uses a general purpose survey given to high school or undergraduate students with questions focused on computer science. Most papers were found irrelevant as they use the query words in different contexts or they perform surveys on groups other than students. A group of 310 papers use results from external data. So that's, for example, reference the survey in their background, but did not use it in the experiment. 64 other papers developed or used the survey. However, they were specific to a certain methodology or tool. In order to validate our query and process, all ICER papers from the database were separately assessed and coded for potential relevance, which after our inclusion and exclusion criteria, the exact same set of 50 relevant papers were found. After carefully assessing the 42 relevant papers, we were able to find some interesting trends and some divisions in the surveys. Post-course surveys were more popular than pre-course surveys, which likely is a result of the traditional end-of-course evaluations rather than the researcher's specific desire to get information at the end of the course. We also found that many of the questions in the surveys presented, they fell into four major topics. So that will be demographics, abilities and experiences, perceptions of computer science, motivations. Many surveys had questions that fell into multiple topics. Out of the 11 surveys that asked for demographics, 5 asked about ethnicity and all of them for gender. For ethnicity, all questions were multiple choice. However, none of them were identical, which may lead to the confusion and ambiguity. And it is clear that there's no direct mapping between those questions, which makes it impossible to compare results across papers. For gender, most of the questions are multiple choice and only one provides a blank space for a short answer. The most popular format of the questions happen to be binary, which is interesting because despite of a long history in the field being focused on gender issues and inclusions, very few papers appear to consider non-binary or transgender students when creating these questions. Research has shown that participants prefer more inclusive options in gender surveys, as well as that the LGBTQ students already have some of the lowest sense of belonging among computer science students. Abilities and experiences is a topic that is covered in many of the surveys. Usually students begin introductory CS course with a wide range of programming backgrounds. So for that reason, researchers and instructors want to know about how comfortable they are with programming before starting the course. Some examples of this type of questions can be observed in this table, where there are 2 Likert scale types and 1 multiple choice with custom entries. Other common questions are the ones that ask about self-efficacy to determine how confident students are in their ability to solve problems and succeed in the field. In this case, all of them are Likert scale, but as you can see, the wording of these statements are different. So it's actually unclear if they have the same goal. Perceptions in computer science questions are important as it helps to assess the student's sense of belonging in the field. It's in particular, it can be really important among the underrepresented minorities. Other surveys also provide open-ended questions to offer students the opportunity to express their perspective in different formats, which can gather students' perceptions in the field that probably haven't been captured with a traditional multiple choice or traditional short answer questions. Some surveys also focus on assessing students' motivation for taking a course or getting in the field of computer science. Questions in these surveys would typically focus on financial or job opportunities after graduation or enjoyment of computer science. So, with our previous examples, we can show that researchers are often asking similar questions, but it's slightly different. So, surveys are attempting to acquire the same information, but because it's not standard, the results cannot be compared across multiple studies. The lack of validation in surveys gives room to bias and ambiguity. For example, let's look at these statements that were extracted from 2 relevant papers. I have always wanted to be in computer science versus I have always wanted to learn computer science. These two mean 2 different things. The first one will naturally lead students to consider issues such as job prospects or future achievement, whereas the second statement will naturally lead students to focus on educational attainment and learning process. Validation and sharing of a research tool is crucial to authentication and replication of studies. Validating the questions and sharing the surveys will help the research community to start standardizing some of the material. As we can see in this table, only one survey was fully validated and shared, which was CAS. Other 5 papers were fully based on 1 or multiple validated surveys. And the rest, which is over 85% of these papers, used at least some non-validated questions. We can also observe that around 1/3 of papers fully share their surveys. There are also some papers that acknowledge the need of validation, and most of them did not fully share their survey questions to allow post hoc analysis. After performing a systematic literature map of research papers of the computer science education community, we found that many papers were asking similar questions on demographics, abilities and experiences, perceptions of computer science, and motivations. However, the lack of a standardized, validated, and publicly shared questions led to results that are not comparable across studies. There's a clear understanding in the community for the need to validate and share research tools. It is important for researchers to attempt whenever possible to either use validated instruments or validate their own, as well as to share survey questions to allow post hoc validation and easy replication. Thanks again for watching this presentation, and if you have any questions, or comments, feel free to contact us. Thank you.